I think this movie has been severely mismarketed, and I think because of that, it's being misunderstood. It's been touted as a takedown of the patriarchy, something about body positivity, and a feminist movement film. And I see a lot of people in their reviews talking about that subject, and also how this is kind of a style over substance film about beauty standards. But I think this movie has so much more to say than that, that goes a little deeper. Let's talk about it. Elisabeth Sparkle, renowned for her aerobic show, faced a devastating blow on her 50th birthday as her boss fires her. Amid her distress, a laboratory offers her a substance that promises to transfer her into an enhanced version of herself. The way the substance creates a enhanced version of Elisabeth in this film, a younger version of herself emerges from her body, which is some of the most grossest and nastiest body horror that we've seen in 2024 yet. The practical effects used here are a masterclass in how to do practical effects in a horror film. It not only looks amazing, realistic, and really draws you into the film, but it also enhances the performances from the actors and conveys the type of plot that they're going for here. A lot of the storytelling is from the actual practical effects. There's not a lot of dialogue in certain scenes. There's a lot of quiet. There's a lot of you reading the room and reading what's going on with the body language. If you're someone that's not a fan of gore, needles, especially needles going into sore spots and nasty spots like that, throw up and fluids and a lot of blood, and, naked old creepy ladies, this is not going to be the movie for you. If you can stomach those things, I think you're going to be in for a thrill ride. A couple in my movie left like halfway through the film. They couldn't stomach it. But I think that this movie, even though it draws you in with the salacious and over-the-top body horror and the way it's filmed and stylized, I think the movie has so much more to say underneath. Demi Moore plays Elisabeth in an Oscar-worthy performance as an aging star who has a lot of self-loathing, is being pushed out for the hot and new and does not know how to handle it. Elisabeth's struggle with self-love and obsession with people's admiration for her and people wanting to love her takes us down a dark path that we've seen celebrities in the past and of today go through in the media. They're told they're not good enough at a certain age, they're quickly forgotten, and also in her case, most of the worth that she has in herself comes from others, whether there's fans, producers, or just people around her like feeling she's great because of what she's done. This drives her to a black market drug, which I think is a metaphor for all the procedures and drugs that celebrities take today to stay youthful, which also regular folk that are not celebrities start getting and trickle down after they use it at first and are probably the guinea pigs pretty much. And this leads her to creating a younger self of her called Sue. And the trick here is that she has to switch back and forth every 7 days with Sue, with no exceptions, or something terrible will happen. And of course, bad things happen. This wouldn't be a horror film if it did not, but the juxtaposition between Margaret Qualley's character, who plays Sue, she's the younger self of Demi Moore's Elisabeth, is brilliant. It's woven perfectly throughout this film. They feel like two different people, but you realize they're always one. It's kind of a really weird trick the movie plays on your brain, where you're trying to figure out the similarities between them and how the metaphor works. And I think they did a really great job of keeping that always engaging. The movie's not subtle. Its themes, its body horror, its dialogue, it's the way it's filmed, everything is shoved right in your face in the most hyper maximalized ways that it possibly can. The damnation of aging, the sexualization of the Sue character who Margaret Qualley plays, both characters are naked a bunch of times in this film, and the way it's portrayed when it's Demi Moore's character versus the way it's portrayed when it's Margaret Qualley's character, there's a very stark difference. One is more not hopeful and sad and kind of depressing, and the other one's hyper stylized and funky and fun and sexy and sultry. And I think those juxtapositions was done on purpose to show how our gazes change depending on how old the person is on screen. And the movie goes for it, and from the beginning, bell bing ding, when the movie starts, the tension keeps rising and building. The mystery keeps building and rising, as well as the tension between Sue and Elisabeth starts to boil. This is supported by the cinematography, which is very hazy and feels like a fever dream that you're watching. The soundtrack is really, really solid, and the score is amazing and adds to the tension and intensity and the creepiness of every single scene, warning you when, like, hey, they shouldn't be doing this, even though they're doing it anyway. The editing of the film is the best technical aspect of the film, and I think this is the best editing I've seen in a movie all year. The way the trailer was snappy and going and flashy is the way the movie is edited, and it's done in a way where it keeps the movie engaging. You never feel like you're missing out on information. It ebbs and flows through tones of dark humor, horror, something that's poignant, and just self-discovery, and it keeps going and going, and it makes this movie that's 2 hours and 20 minutes feel more like an hour and 30. It just really blows by. I think maybe the last 20 minutes of the movie, maybe even the last 15 minutes of the movie, feels like it's dragging just a bit, but by then you've seen 90% of the film, so you can appreciate them taking their time to really go crazy. Speaking of flies, I think the movie The Fly inspired director Coralie Fargeat and the execution, how she did this film, especially the body horror, which I really appreciated because The Fly is one of my favorite horror films, and I think she did a great job of taking inspiration from that and Cronenberg to add to her own unique style. This is only her second feature, and she did an amazing job. This feels like a film made by someone that has been directing for years. It's really handled really well, the performances that she get out of all the characters and how she portrays each character on screen. It feels very detailed and very specific, and she understood the visions that she wanted from beginning to end. There's metaphors and different things in the background that's happening while the chaos is on screen that makes the movie able to be like seen on a rewatch and catch different things. While doing that, she does a great job of weaving the grotesque horror, the dark humor, and all the different poignant points that she's trying to make throughout the film. But I did not expect this movie to be so funny. I laughed very nervously and uncomfortably, and sometimes comfortably at so many moments in the film that I feel like was intentional, and it makes the movie going experience for this film a lot more enjoyable. While this movie is gross throughout, the third act is where it really goes insane and balls to the walls and does some really nasty stuff. If you are a body horror fan, you're definitely going to enjoy what they go for here, and it's going to make or break the movie. Similar to something like Alien Romulus, that third act and that final piece, how that pissed off some people, but some people loved it. I think that this third act is gonna make people even like 10 times more feel uncomfortable if they're not a fan of creepy things like that. I think that is going to be very divisive, but for me, it worked really well. While the body horror stuff is done perfection and done really great in that third act, all the themes start coming into play and just fall into piece and really doubles down on all the things that they're trying to talk about. Like the patriarchy is something that kind of discussed in this film and is a small piece of why this is happening to this character, but there's so much more that this movie digs up when you really think about it. The celebrity showcases the things that celebrities put through themselves through to be trending and popular and stay in the now when they're aging, and all the different drugs and the extent that they go through to try to keep that adoration and keep their spot in Hollywood or even in the music industry. I think it did a really good job of showing how far you will go to stay young, and kind of how us as viewers, people in the audience, execs, everybody around the world contributes to it. We all have blood on our hands to how we treat these people. Think of something like Britney Spears and her meltdown that was showcased on TV a couple years ago, or even something a little bit more recent with The Boys actress Erin Morati, where her body's changed a little bit and everyone was coming at her about it. We do these things and we push these celebrities in a certain way by being so critical of them when they do things that we feel is not right, and how that affects them and not thinking about how it affects them as a person. So I think the movie really double downs on those themes, and I think that's what this movie is more about than taking down the patriarchy, because I don't think that's really what the intention of the film was. And the movie comes full circle from beginning to end and really has one of the strongest endings I've seen in the film this year. The movie has layers upon layers upon layers that you can talk about all day long. I could talk about this film for probably an hour, but I'm not going to do that. I want you to go see the film. I think if you are a fan of body horror, this is a must see. I think this is going to be a masterpiece of a body horror film when it's said and done. And I think that because it touches on so many different things, it's bold, it's ambitious, it's sexy at the same time while being absolutely grotesque in the same breath. I think this is something for everyone here if you can stomach some of the gross aspects of the film. And I think this is one of the year's best. So with that said, I'm going to give The Substance an A. So the question of the day is, what is your favorite body horror film that you've seen? Drop all those comments down below and let me know. And you watch more of my content.